Hey everybody, welcome to the morning market briefing. It's Friday, March 13th, 2026. This one snuck up on me, folks, but we got a little Freaky Friday going on.
Friday 13th.
2 in a row.
It's going to be great luck for everybody. That's what they say.
That's the cool thing about when you have a February Friday the 13th. Most of the time, 75% of the time, you're going to get a March one.
That's big.
Back to back, Friday the 13th.
Nothing like repeated bad luck.
I mean, it is awesome. We are very much in it right now.
Not a full moon, though. I noticed that it was out this morning. Waning, I believe is the word.
It is waning and a little chilly. It does look like it's going to warm up this afternoon, though. But if you have not already, please check out the Jacobs Ladder Group, thejacobsladdergroup.org. Learn more about that organization. Listen to the podcast. It's been up now, I guess, about 3 weeks, but search for Amy Odell on our YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts. Great discussion with Tom and Ben and her about the origins of this group that's doing so much to provide one-of-a-kind, individualized education and therapies to kids with all kinds of challenges. And come by on April 1st. It's not an April Fool's joke, but at 12:30 we'll have lunch and then hear from Amy at 1 o'clock. Should be wrapped up by 2. Great opportunity to learn. And if you're interested in giving, if you go to the jacobsladdergroup.org, there is a donate button right at the top right of the screen. So check that out. Let's open up with the war, Tom. I have a dumb question that I asked you in our pre-production meeting. I'm not real well versed in military strategy. But from the outside looking in, we keep hearing about the Strait of Hormuz, threats of mines. What if there's submarine attacks? There really is the only stronghold that Iran has at this point. It is their leveraging chip. It is also potentially Trump's off-ramp by getting that thing reopened and saying, okay, we're good to go. The general concept is that you have this canal that narrows very tight to where at one point it's only 2 miles wide. And it is obviously significant for shipping, specifically for energy, oil going all around the world. This is a small geographic area. I don't understand why we're not able or thinking about getting all the people that are on our side way away from there and just bombing it. And if there's a mine there, let's make sure that thing gets blown up too. If the problem is this is a very narrow bottleneck through which massive amounts of oil is transported, we've got a pretty small target zone. What am I missing?
That's a great question.
I'm
really
clearly
know.
missing something.
This is a Ben question for sure. Ben knows more about foreign countries than I do. But it seems to me that we've got to be able to figure that out. And perhaps it's just we continue to just whittle away out of Iran to the point they can't do anything. And there was an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal that came out yesterday afternoon. It was written by a guy named Peter Navarro, who a quick Google said is basically an advisor to President Trump. He's an economic advisor. I don't know much about him. I don't know if you do. But his argument was that ultimately, in the long term, this is going to lower the cost of oil because there's something, I guess, that's been agreed upon worldwide for the last 50, 60 years, since 1979, that there's the Iran terror premium on oil, which is essentially their wild card. They could do anything at any time. They could always, threaten to shut down the Strait, and that has caused the average price of oil to be persistently high to the tune of basically 10 to 20 basis points on global GDP for the last forever, basically. And that if we can basically uninstall the current regime and put in one that's more friendly and more business focused, that would actually bring down oil prices kind of permanently, or at least relieve the Iran terror premium from the oil market. I suppose it's an interesting argument. Is that the ultimate goal of this operation? I don't necessarily buy it.
No.
I certainly think that that's probably true mathematically if we could get somebody in there who was more interested in, growing the country, making prosperity as opposed to just funding, Hezbollah and Hamas and the Houthis and every other strange name you've heard of over the last 30 years since 9/11 that likes to launch bombs at each other, strap them to their chest, and run into places. I mean, that seems to be their primary focus for their economic plunder. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the off ramp is. I asked Rock.
Yeah.
And it seems that negotiating seems to be the number one answer.
It just doesn't seem like that's going to happen.
Yeah, it didn't seem like it was working before we started dropping bombs, and it certainly doesn't seem like it's going to work now. So
Navarro is an interesting character. I felt like he was much more prominent in the first Trump administration, primarily because he was the one, Tom, that consistently clashed with Steve Mnuchin.
Oh, interesting.
Specifically on China. Navarro is much more isolationist, much more prone to want to cripple your enemies, which I've admittedly not read the op-ed, but that would be in line with that line of thinking. He's written a bunch of books on, the coming wars with China and that kind of thing. So he's somebody just tried to join our Zoom meeting. We're on YouTube now. But it's kind of interesting to me that we seem to be I think the portion of the narrative, and you alluded to this, Tom, earlier in terms of the war, the piece that right now is being very much ignored, and perhaps fairly so. I think that, we're 11 days into this, 10, 12, 14. We're less than 2 weeks into this, but everyone rightfully has concerns about what are we trying to actually accomplish here. I'm more of the mindset that there is something that we're trying to accomplish, and maybe some of it has already been accomplished, but I think there are going to be logical outcomes. I don't know that I buy Navarro's necessarily, but I think the one thing that is being missed as this continues to drag on is really the notion that the amount of depletion that is occurring on Iran's side is significant. I don't think you can dispute that point, and that may not be the headline, and rightfully so, given that this is still ongoing and we're losing, war fighters, and this is still messy and ugly and brutal, and nobody really knows what's going on. But that part, I think, is pretty undeniable, and at some point, that may be how you went out, just pure attrition. Thankfully, I don't think that. I've seen some estimates that say essentially 60% of armaments have probably been taken out. I don't think anybody knows for sure. I'd like to think somebody does, but if that's true, at least from that perspective of the war, you're over halfway.
Yeah. I mean, I worry that the tough part is you're fighting an enemy that literally is capable of anything. You're also fighting all the people for some reason sympathize with them. We saw quite a bit of mayhem yesterday in Pennsylvania at Old Dominion University. We had the guy in Austin last week. I mean, they have self-deputized, weapons
Fighters
of war who are just hanging out all around us, and that's a problem. And we saw there's, I guess, a bomb went off in, was it Oslo at the American embassy?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a problem. We don't necessarily have that. You don't see the hillbillies with the Sig Sauer stickers on the back of their truck, running into mosques all the time. But
and right now it seems like the one place where Iran does have an advantage is basically cheap drones.
Yeah,
they've got many more $10,000 price range drones than the U.S. has interceptors.
Yeah.
So that remains a thing. That's where I keep coming back to the oversimplified idea. If a log fell on a road, I could say, well, we can't go through this road anymore. Or I could get the log out of the way.
Yeah. I mean, I sat in, this is probably, 6 months ago, whenever Thomas was here interning, former intern, soon-to-be employee of Narwhal, TK. We went down to the Atlanta History Center, and there was a Atlanta defense program that's put on. One of the guys that is a friend of the firm, neighbor of ours, was speaking there, so I went down to see him, brought the interns, and there's a guy there who was talking about he was launching a business. He was the former head of drone technology for the FBI. He was a MIT guy. Very, very strange energy coming off this guy. but he was basically giving a presentation on how, modern warfare is going to be who's got the best drone interception program, and that he had left the government and was currently, they call it, he was in dark mode, which means his company didn't have a name and wasn't, public to anybody or what they were doing, but basically saying that he was trying to start a business where they would have the most elite anti-drone technology possible. What that looks like, I don't know. He didn't really explain, but he was basically saying, like, this is our biggest weakness right now, is that everybody else has drones now too, and that's where the war is going. Yeah. So here we are, I guess.
We did have Trump and Bessent making the rounds yesterday. Bessent specifically trying to calm the markets, did an hour-long interview. We're big Bessent guys. I felt like I feel like every time he speaks, there is an impact. I feel like the impact was relatively muted on this, though.
Yeah. I haven't gotten all the way through it yet. I started watching it this morning. He didn't say much, but, I mean, he had some interesting pieces.
He exudes supreme but controlled confidence.
Yeah.
Which I do think is what you need to see.
He was quietly throwing shade, I believe, on private credit. Not explicitly, but he basically was like, he's been quoted in the kind of the opening line of questioning was, you basically have said, you don't have respect for the economic thinking of elite institutions, but you have infinite respect for the markets, which I think is what he was basically saying when his response is that private credit is garbage, because he was like, the market is all about price discovery. The market will show you what something is worth. You have all these inputs, and ultimately you'll come to that. Once you start getting into gating, you don't know what your asset is worth at the end of the day. You can't mark to market and figure out, like, what do I have? That's a real problem. And that works in a number of ways. But, I mean, that's a real shade on private credit. But I think it also is, he's kind of talking about the war as well. It's like the market is showing you, in the short term at least, oil prices are going up. The bond market is indicating to you that inflation is probably ticking up. It's indicating to you we had the biggest move on the 2-year in probably years yesterday, because any thought of a cut was wiped off. We're now showing 0 cuts expected for the year on futures. If you look on Kalshi, though, we're still, I want to say, 30% chance of 2 cuts this year, which is still where I would be. I would still say if we can get through this and things return to where we were before, we should very much be cutting 2 times. And I believe that. I still think that's true. And I still think it probably is true even with everything that's happened. And so that's something to keep on your radar. And, of course, Nick Timiraos, who has been defending the independence of the Fed fiercely for 2 years now.
Fierce defender of independence, Nick Timiraos.
Just saying that, what Donald Trump is doing is horrible and that you should never openly speak out about the Fed and what they're doing. Literally responded to Trump's tweet last night. So Trump tweeted, "Where is the Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Too Late Powell today? He should be dropping interest rates immediately, not waiting for the next meeting. President Donald J. Trump," all caps. To which Nick Timiraos then gave him multiple examples of where other presidents had openly attacked the Fed, particularly during wartime, including when in January 1951, Truman went after the Fed during the Korean War, saying, quote, "I hope the board will not allow the bottom to drop out from under our securities." And then in 1965, apparently LBJ invited William McChesney Martin Jr., who was a member of the Fed, and had the tie-breaking vote to hike rates. And he said, apparently he screamed at him, my boys are dying in Vietnam and Bill Martin doesn't care. So it's like, it's either the Fed has always been ruthlessly independent and the president has never said anything, and what's happening right now is a horrible travesty, or this has happened and here are some examples, but the same person is giving
both.
So
the hypocrisy is insane. Trump, shortly after midnight, posted, I'll just read the whole thing, but we are totally destroying the terrorist regime of Iran militarily, economically, and otherwise. Yet if you read the failing New York Times, you would incorrectly think that we are not winning. Iran's navy is gone, the air force is no longer, missiles, drones, and everything else are being decimated, and their leaders have been wiped from the face of the earth. We have unparalleled firepower, unlimited ammunition, and plenty of time. The plenty of time piece right there is what makes people so nervous. And we have plenty of time. Watch what happens to these deranged scumbags today. They've been killing innocent people all over the world for 47 years. And now I, as the 47th president of the United States of America, seemingly he's finding some kind of poetic justice in the 47 there. Now I, as the 47th president of the United States of America, am killing them. What a great honor it is to do so. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. I mean, if you're looking for him to de-escalate, or if you think he's actively trying to find an off-ramp, I would suggest to you that he knows what the off-ramp is and he's trying to get there.
Yeah, and
whether you agree with that off-ramp or you agree with what's happening, this is not coming. It does not seem to me that Trump is acting in a way that implies, well, I didn't know it was going to be like this.
And he's got a point in the fact that it's very hard to know exactly what's going on. I mean, they're actively pushing for a retraction from CNN about the California drone ship strike, because that was, I guess, one unverified call-in tip, and CNN ran that as fact. You know, they've also had it was a beautiful morning when these two handsome young men from Pennsylvania showed up at Mom Donnie's house and threw bombs, you know, and they just acted.
Yeah, we got a
oopsie daisy. They ended up in jail.
MS Now did a retraction.
Yeah, I mean, that was chaos.
Which
so it's pretty hard to argue that the information we're getting from major news sources is correct.
Right.
It's happening, 4,000 miles from here.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on, and I don't think anyone does, but I think that there's a lot of people who are, like any other situation, like COVID, like Liberation Day, they're taking a hard stance for what they think is going to be the result of this, and I think ultimately no one knows. This could be very positive.
And I would encourage
you. I tend to think that probabilistically it will not be.
Yeah, but I think there is. I think the message of encouragement. I feel like the morale of this country is quite low.
Yeah.
And my encouragement across both aisles, my encouragement to people out there, just as a functional, feel good Friday the 13th tip here is, I don't think there's anything wrong with assuming that the president of the United States knows more and has more clarity than you do. I think that was true during COVID. I think that was true during, the Biden administration, during the Obama administration, during the Clinton administration, the Bush. You may hate Donald Trump, and that's fine. That's your right. He knows more about what is going on in Iran than we do.
Correct.
And he knows more than is being reported.
I trust Scott Bessent. Scott Bessent knows more about about what's going on in Iran probably than Donald Trump, if I had to guess.
Yeah.
He knows. He's a smart guy. He's getting it from the gas station boys. They know what's that's where he gets his intel.
He's getting his news straight from the pump. Adobe down 8%. Results were actually relatively resilient despite kind of the expectation in the headlines, but their guidance on operating margin pretty weak. Their CEO, who's been there forever, is stepping down. Tough time.
I don't know what.
Lowest level since 2019 for Adobe stock.
Adobe's tough because it very much at the outset of AI, as soon as you started getting pictures that you could make out of prompts, Adobe has taken a bath. From they're making money standpoint, they still very much are making money. I mean, that's a company that continues to operate well. Their results were very good, but the problem is there's maybe no company that reeks more of this will not be here in 10 years because of AI perceptually maybe than is actually true. I mean, they used to make a ton of money on Photoshop. You don't really need that anymore. I can make a picture of myself doing almost anything. It'll take me 15 seconds using Grok or Gemini or even Meta AI. And so that's tough for them. I think the vibes are just very, very low. I still think they're well valued. I mean, they're cheap now, super cheap. But the problem is anyone ever going to buy this stock again?
Right.
I really don't know.
Yeah, I wonder if there's the potential, and I wouldn't predict this, but do they get a little bit of a prolonged Walmart play? And what I mean by that is what Adobe once had as a technical and technological advantage is now just kind of the most boring technology out there.
Yeah.
There's a million replacements.
PDFs.
It's just there. Like, you can sign this, you can edit this. I wonder if there's not at some point in the future a period though where we come back, Walmart was the bad guy for so long, and then it was like Walmart's just so generic. who cares about Walmart? And then it's like there's actually been some pretty decent financial performance from Walmart as people kind of refocused and reshifted. That would be the path, and I think that's a long path.
Yeah, they've got to scale down what they are.
Yeah, I think the path for them is, at some point, do we get to a spot where it's like, no, like we're reframing how we're viewing this company, and
like maybe IBM. Like IBM was like a hot tech company in 1987, and now they're a company that exists and has a place in the world, but no one thinks about them at all.
Yeah,
but they're not gone.
We do have some economic data coming in. Let's see here.
Let's get there.
I'm coming.
I've got it up.
You got it.
Yeah, so we got core PCE this morning, the Fed's preferred method. Slight tick up on the year over year to 3.1 from 3.0. I wouldn't say that's like the be all end all. And of course, this is January data, so now we're 2 months behind. So I wouldn't say it has a huge mark on what's happening right now. Though the headline came in at 2.8, which is lower than 2.9, which is before, but almost everything else came in line with expectations. The big piece being that we had a small tick up in core PCE year over year at 3.1. I would expect that number is down for the month of February, which we will get later, and I would expect it to be up for the month of March. So what does it mean to get this data right now? I wouldn't say a ton. So
we also got a revision on GDP, now saying fourth quarter was not 1.4, it was 0.7 percentage points.
Oops.
So not saying we should cut, but
yeah, but things are messy right now. It's just we're in a messy environment. I think that unemployment is higher than you think. We're now going to have a real drag on GDP as a function of higher oil prices. We're going to have a real drag on arguments that inflation is down, even if you added back the oil, you're still so artificially high on housing that you might end up being flat. I mean, it's just there's a lot of pieces here where you've really got to look at the data and say, where are we? I think we're too restrictive on the short end. That's what I think. But
notably, we kind of had on the revision on GDP, consumer spending down a tick, investments down a tick, government spending down a tick. I mean, that's a 1% weight. Previously, it was under 1%, moving against us. Exports, more of a negative. Imports, not up as much.
I mean, they also revised up the GDP price index from 3.6 to 3.8, which we talked about in real time, which is a major drag on that number, which is
back that thing out.
Yeah, look, I mean, even the core PCE is 0.7.
I mean, that is the highest published data that you can find is the core PCE. We just talked about how it was a little higher than expected.
Yeah, so it was 3.1. They're saying the GDP deflator was 3.8. So if you take that 0.7 off and put in the real number or the number they have for core PCE right now, guess what? We're at 1.4, which is where the GDP was. So I don't know, man.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. All right, well, we're going to wrap it up there. Hope you guys have a great day, great weekend. Freaky Friday. Let's get after it. As always, if you have questions, you can email us, and we'll try to talk about them next week. tmmb@narwhal.com. Make sure you hit subscribe on your podcast thing. Check us out on YouTube. Just search the Morning Market Briefing. Talk to you soon.